Oh my god, I still need to do my taxes. Oh. What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're having a wonderful time. My name is Ethan. I go by Lord Ethan, and I'm an Overwatch collegiate varsity coach of coming up on 6 years. Today, we have a really nice treat ahead of us. This is a GM support rated player called C22, and they mentioned in their notes, I went Wu Yong the first round and tried to go Lucio the second, but we just got full hub. I'm not sure what I could be doing better to have more impact apart from not dying and hitting more shots, Lamau. And I think that that is an excellent place to start. It's always a treat to review shiny rated gameplay on the channel because I sometimes go through in advance to take some notes and make sure that I have a good sense of the lobby. You know, some of these lobbies play out pretty fast. Some of them can seem a little complicated, and I'm always pleasantly surprised. It actually always ends up being pretty straightforward stuff. These high rated lobbies are fairly explicable as opposed to the chaos of a platinum rated lobby. I want to mention as well that when it comes to playing in GM, if you have hit this elo, congratulations. I mean, this is actually a really impressive accomplishment. For the most part, it's a relatively peerless achievement as well. It takes a lot of effort, a pretty considerable amount of time, and some pretty like fiercely demanding skill sets that you aren't going to find emulated in a lot of people. With that said, so yeah, C22, great stuff, man, and it really excites me to imagine all of my VOD reviews being able to climb higher and higher and higher. Even though, you know, I wish that I had the time to follow up with everyone and be like, you know, hey, how have the games been? Re-review and everything. With that out of the way, this is the first of many instances of me being a prick, and I'm so sorry, C22, is when it comes to low GM, because I presume that this is low to mid GM here, and I might be wrong, and I'll totally own that if I am, but I presume that this is low to mid GM. When it comes to that elo, I think the players are so mid. I think they're bad, honestly. And the reason for that isn't because the players are actually bad. It's just the skill sets required to consistently win and rank up in this elo are, for me, disproportionately higher than the skill sets required to rank up in the other ranks. To go from the lower echelon of Silver 5 to just on the cusp of Gold, to move between Platinum and Diamond, and to sway, honestly, even back and forth, as I have, between High Masters and Low GM on my support role specifically. What I've learned is that you are only ever going up against players who are better than you in these lobbies, and the only way you're going to be able to beat them is by doing something. And that's going to be what we take a look at here. So, guys, thanks for bearing with the long intro. With that out of the way, and with a couple of more points kind of lined up around the corner, I'm going to jump right in. The first investment that I think we should be making is a little bit of scouting. I understand that you don't want your head taken off by the Widow here, but it's interesting to me, and I went back and looked, we'll take a look now, but, like, it's interesting to me, we don't even, like, glance up at the window, right? So, like, I don't think that we even see the Widow up there, and we don't try to look, and I think, I wonder if she actually peeks. No, she doesn't peek beforehand, but I wonder if the knowledge that they have a Widow helps us or a team at all. We're running a composition that doesn't have someone else who wants to sit on. I mean, I don't know why our Emre is on low ground, you know. It actually might be a nice ping for him to have, right, and for him to play up here. But also, knowledge is power. The earlier you can acquire it, the better, right? Does playing a Widow, or just, you know, playing here to see the Widow when she peeks out so that you can unpeek, right? Okay, now I know they have a Widow, or being up here to see that they don't have a Widow so that you can actually then have the confidence to do a little more scouting, see what else they have or don't have, might actually be a worthy consideration. Instead, we're going to end up playing on our side of the map. It's a really defensive position, and the thing about this position for me is that it takes a very long time for our damage instances to actually connect to our opponents. I like playing out of the line of sight of the Widow, although you did double peek her just now, and we are re-peeking this same position, right? So it's a little too samey for me, right? There's nothing different. We haven't tried to rotate to any of our options, any of our other locations. Even after taking a little bit of pressure from the horse, I could imagine us moving or doing, you know, anything else. I think the wave is a little bit too late as well. You can be doing that earlier when you're taking pressure, and forfeiting map control to heal a teammate that has not only, like, started on the low ground and then rotated into what I call the buy-lose position of King's Row, because taking this position after moving from the point and high ground, moving to this position, and then trying to retake is really, really tremendously difficult. And so I just don't think that that's a good call. Meanwhile, there's so much map to control, and actually what we're going to see here is our ball goes for a PD on their Widow, I believe here at some point. The ball Tracer are both on the Widow. Your threat, the one who could absolutely compel you to be all the way back here. It's really unfortunate as well that the way that we're playing and the way that Kiri is playing necessitates the Suzu, because that's really for both of us, right? Because of how critical that we went, I would presume here. And so it's really disappointing that we kind of con ourselves out of the opportunity to do damage onto a target and follow up on teammates that really benefit from our presence. Think about the rules of Overwatch. There are 3 core rule sets that we abide by. That's going to be the rules of the matchup, the rules of the character, and the rules of our composition. Don't the ball and the Tracer want your wave more than the Emre needs it when he dances in a choke against a horse with Fortify? And then we repeak a Widow who should have been dead, because not only did we mark her at the beginning of the game by playing in a position that actually gives us operable intel, that is the visual confirmation of their composition, their characters, which is, by the way, also instant knowledge of the rule sets, right? That those oh, they have a Widow, I know where to not peek. They have a Tracer, I know which corners to play around, I know which health packs to control, right? It should give you instant knowledge of some of these rule sets, right? And instead, what I see us doing is having late ability casts on ourselves, taking too much damage, not rotating to the other important positions of the map that give us knowledge, that give us angles, and also, this is interesting. If Overwatch 2 boils down to 2 principles, timing and map control. By the way, really unfortunate that we tried to move through here. I almost wonder if I send us through here just so that we can take high ground and at least have an opportunity to contest. I also think that Ball Tracer are really excellent candidates for our ring here, and so we want to make sure that we're exploiting that nature of our matchup, right? And that's something that we're thinking about as soon as we leave spawn and we know what composition that we're running, right? Okay, my Ball Tracer are great recipients for my wave, and I'm probably leaving my other support to care for the characters who are going to be in the core. What I also wanted to mention about the long ranges and playing as far back on the map as we are is it takes forever, and maybe I already said this, for our water orbs to reach the targets that we're trying to pressure, which is really troubling to me, because again, if Overwatch 2 boils down to two principles, timing and map control, then it's really unfortunate, because I think it's actually even taking a little bit longer to build our ult. It's forcing us to play in positions like, if we're playing range on Wuyong, I understand like playing our effective range, but I think we're playing a little bit too far, conning ourselves out of good opportunities for scouting, and only able to tether to the Wuyong, right? Like, don't these 2 characters want our wave? Or our ring? Is our wave useful here? I understand that, playing too close to your opponents as Wuyong isn't really in his best, isn't like his best damage, but I've been rolled by plenty of Wuyong players who are comfortable playing in close ranges, and that is all the way up through mid to high masters, right? And so there's no reason to imagine that, Wuyong still does damage at the close ranges, and if we're looking to do all the things that our characters can do, then we're looking to capitalize on all the ranges that we can be effective. I don't really like jumping against the hit scan player here, peeking and then unpeeking, then re-peeking here with projectiles that can cover around the walls. I think that the mechanical output that we're seeing from C22 on these water orbs is actually really, really good. It's just these ranges that are troubling me. I don't like these starting positions, right? Starting positions that could give us more info, that could start us on an off angle, that could help draw aggro away from our ball, away from our Tracer. I think that our Ball Tracer is marked right now. We've already taken a little bit of pressure, so because we took a little bit of pressure, they confirm where we are, right? They get hit markers whenever they hit us, so they go for the spear on us here as well. It forces us to play main, but our ball is getting active, right? If Overwatch 2 boils down to 2 principles, timing and map control, isn't this some really bad timing to end up on our side of the map as if we were playing to contest the last meters of this second objective, right? Could we have started in on our ball, on this high ground, on this off angle, someplace that it's easier to do damage a little bit faster, or, and this is really tragic, where our bubble target is a lot more clear. I honestly think that it's more worth it to just use the bubble for ourselves here, and yeah, and your Tracer doesn't end up managing to get anything with that as well. My policy is if you have it, then use it. If you can't find a reason to use it, then, yeah, if you don't have a reason, then find one. If you can't find a reason, then make one. So I really like using the ult, but I think as well that there's a much better spot to use the ult, and even if the timing is pretty fair, It is pretty much at the same time as our Kitsune Rush, which is fair to make any Overwatch player in this lobby a little nervous. Damage instances onto the tank, and then instead of shifting and using the jump to get to a vertical position, instead of setting up on this high ground where they can't walk at us as soon as... I mean, imagine how free you are to also do the damage that you're doing from this position, right? Why not start on the high ground? Too samey, right? We're doing like the same thing fight after fight after fight, fight after fight phase. Look at where you are, right? You've taken a spear from this position. You've been force mained by this by this position. You're now backing up and jumping around like a lunatic, which makes your shots harder to hit, which forces the horse to walk at you. We're on a jump wave. We're also with our Curie Emre core, leaving our ball tracer core totally alone once again, when we could have just started on the high ground, been immune to the horse walking us, soloed out the Emre, and had options for kiting. All that we can do here is play out in the open on low ground and heal our Emre, who is either going to die or going to win, forcing our Curie to contest the objective, because she can't really go play around our ball tracer very easily either. Well, I mean, that kind of depends. I actually might be talking out of my ass with that one, but I hope that we understand the point. Our place of highest efficacy is not here on the low ground. It isn't in front of their tank. It is on an off angle. It's behind them. It's at ranges that are both close and far, where we have reasons to use all of our cooldowns. I hate that we have to wave a shield because we are sitting out in the middle of the open. Even in the phases of these fights and in the phases between these fights where we have the opportunity to just turn around. It's really interesting. Turn around and like just go to our next good position, right? Somewhere on height, somewhere where they can't walk on us immediately after they see us, right? Somewhere where they have to say, oh my goodness, Wuyong's up there, so we can't look at him first, right? Somewhere where we're safe, but also able to play our effective ranges. I've said it all. It's really weird to me that it seems like we're really, I'm going to say it as like really obsessed with doing things, but we aren't obsessed with doing things like at the right time. I kind of liken it to like Brigitte Inspire. It's not about how much Inspire uptime you have. It's about like when and what you are proccing Inspire for and on, right? So the same deal for Wuyong. I don't think that the damage, that the mechanical output, which again is really impressive, I don't think that it actually matters at all, because we're doing it from ranges where it takes too long for our damage to be applied, where we can't see or follow up on our ball tracer, where we aren't starting on off angles and forcing their team to decide whether they want to move on and shoot us or to move towards our teammates. Do we turn around for the ball tracer, or do we move on their Curie Wuyong Emre core that can't get away from us after they've started walking, right? There after we've started walking. So I think that there's a lot that we're missing out on, and this is why, this is why I have actually a couple of takes at this point of this video, basically trying to sell us on the fact that you have to be creative, you have to do things, you have to take risks that you measure in real time to win in your GM games, in your high-rated games, in Masters, Diamond, honestly, even as far as Gold, you have to do things, right? I think maybe in Silver and Bronze you can get away with just kind of existing in the lobby and not dying, right? But, how do you do more in this lobby? How to have more impact in this lobby than do more damage and, like, land more shots and not die? We're already playing KDA more than we should, right? Valuing our lives instead of touches onto the objective to prevent it from moving or to prevent its capture. Positions that help us familiarize ourselves with the rules by which we should be playing as early as possible. They have a Widow, they don't have a Widow, they have a horse, they have an Emre, they have an Iyari, right? They swapped off the Widow because they couldn't find an opening pick because I scouted that they had a Widow. She knew that I scouted her, and then I unpeaked, which made her nervous and realized that she should just go back to spawn and swap, right? Overwatch at this point is a mind game. It's a test of like what your knowledge is. Use your shift to jump from the payload to this high ground right now. No! No! We're standing on the cart, low ground main, the same way that we have been fight after fight, fight phase after fight phase, shooting a tank that not only gives us reduced ultimate generation in a fight that we already have our ultimate, but also playing this fight, the early phase, in a way that forces us to eventually just play behind our Curie Wuyong core. Do something! Go in! Do anything! You have 3 water orbs. They don't even need to charge up all the way for you to do almost the exact... You waved a shield again! To do the almost exact same amount of damage as if you didn't have an upgraded, like, 3 water orbs when you're at close ranges. I hope that word slot made sense. We also use our shift to kite back so far, and as I'm known to say, it's always better in than out. We haven't found or made a reason to use our bubble which is fine. We don't want to overdo it on our ultimates, but it would be interesting how the bubble helps us play in. Our ball has gone for minefield, and he is totally alone, and now we are being forced back further along the low ground, making it very, very easy. I want us to watch this from his perspective. You don't need to be GM to get this pick here. That is some serious value. We aren't up here, we aren't up here, we aren't in here, we aren't in here, we aren't in here, we aren't over here, we haven't controlled this mega pack, we aren't trying to fall back to this position, we aren't trying to regulate this high ground, we aren't trying to push in, we aren't trying to start like a little skeever from Skyrim looking to bite somebody's ankles while they're turned around. We're not doing anything. We have to do things. If you want to win in GM, if you want to stay in GM, if you want to actually climb this elo, and place yourself against the players who are better than you, then you have to be more creative, more ready, more risk assessing than they are, right? Although honestly, I don't even think these players are better than you. I just think that they're actually doing things, which is really the only feedback that we're going to end up getting left with, which is like a little bit unfortunate, but also like very, very good, because that's really, really an excellent place to start. I mentioned I mean, we really should. Anyone who's watching this absolutely should go watch that Baptiste video. I think it's like Make More Mistakes or something, and take that advice to heart. The best way to play Overwatch is to make as many mistakes, new mistakes, as quickly as possible, right? So that you know what you can get away with. But this is just doing the same thing over and over again and hoping that it will work each time, even though the conditions of the fight are different from phase to phase, right? Playing behind us and spamming water orbs down a choke while we play low ground in the middle of the map isn't a condition, right? Pickoffs, scouting, info, ultimate generation, ultimate timing, ability usage, combos, those are conditions, right? Forcing them to use their cooldowns, playing for our map control, controlling health packs, going in to force them to divert or divide their attention, to split their formation, to gather them all up so that all of them receive all of the same instances of damage, or to take out isolated 1v1 duels that you know you can win, because as I said, I actually don't even think it's a case of these players being better than UC22, because I'm really pleased with the mechanical output. Generally, like, the ability timings are okay, although I think that we should be, I mean, I think that if we're just starting in positions where it's easier for us to get, you know, some really good map control and have better info earlier on, I think that we're seeing better cooldown usage from you anyways. I mean, if you force yourself to take a duel against a DPS at closer range, you're going to use your wave, right? And that only knocks them back, does healing on yourself, and even does a little bit of damage to them. So, you know, that helps you kind of compensate for playing at the close ranges, right? Playing our characters only in one way doesn't make sense to me when, you know, again, Wu Yong, if he didn't do any damage when he was at close range, I would say, like, literally, if he did no damage, 0 damage at close range, I would say, yeah, probably don't do a close range as Wu Yong, right? But, hey, DPS shots like Hitscan, Cassidy, and Sojourn, and some of these other characters, Widow, those shots get really hard to hit at close range. Now, I wouldn't be taking close range duels against Emre, right? But it'd be really nice to, you know, start in a position where I know they have an Emre, so that right from the beginning of the map, I am kind of formatting the rules in my head that I have to play by, which is, okay, I probably can't take close matchups against the Emre, but, you know, I can, like, jump into the Bastion's face after he has a shift. If I'm, you know, in a closed room, he doesn't have nade, and I'm around a health pack, right? You know, that's just one of infinite different scenarios. In the vein of doing the same thing over and over and over again, and hoping, I suppose, that it works in a low GM lobby instead of actually challenging the rules by which they are playing and saying, you know, this is the angle that you want to control, this is the map that you're going to control, so I'm either going to, you know, force myself to play totally away from that so that you don't understand what I'm doing, or I'm going to say, play as you want, but I'm still taking it anyways. We should be not moving through the choke as Lucio, right? Like they want us on the low ground in the middle of the point. Bastion wants you there, Emre wants you there, Ana wants nades onto all of us as we all pass through the choke, and you are Lucio, who rides on walls, skates around, right, rivets and rolls all over wherever you want to be, and instead we're taking Bastion spam and going critical before we have even gone over to their side of the map. This is really troubling to me, right? And this is an instance, and I'm so sorry, again, one of many instances of me being a very rude coach this whole map, and I apologize for that, C2. There's a lot of things that I found impressive. I just always like complaining and bemoaning. This is why I think it's low. Is because we got to do something, right? Again, we haven't taken high ground. We haven't started on a position. I like that we're playing our ranges, right? We're playing 20 meters away from the Roadhog so that we don't get hooked. But, like, you know, couldn't we also do that on high ground? Couldn't we establish an angle on the yard? Couldn't we go for pylon? Couldn't we go for displacement? Couldn't we go for a fight setup? Couldn't we go for a coordinated dive? We are playing Lucio in a way that in this phase of the fight, we had to dodge the hook instead of simply not being eligible for it in the first place. It's like a quip that I make sometimes where I say, you know, the fastest way to get healing is to not take the damage in the first place, right? And that's kind of how I feel here is like, yeah, the reason that we're not able to do anything besides land our shots and not die is because we aren't trying to do anything other than those two things. We gotta open our mind. Overwatch 2 boils down to two core principles. This is why GM lobbies are actually really easy, really explicable. I once looked at a high GM rated game with a Zarya player, and the main point of feedback that we were left with at the end of the game was when you have your ult, you have to use it as soon as possible. And that alone sent them careening into Champion. They hit Champion 5, like, in a couple of months with that, right? Which is crazy. Maybe it was a little shorter, maybe a little longer. So you have to do things. In GM games, we can make them really simple. Timing and map control. Are you engaging onto certain targets at the same time as your team? Are you getting to certain parts of the map at the times where you should be? Are you not forcing bad matchups at bad times? Like, this is a bad time to try and decide to get out, right? Instead, why don't we just, you know, go in here, right? We could break down any of, like, the hundreds of options here that we have, right? But really, all I want to see is us doing something. I can't. It's really, really tough. And this isn't anyone's fault. This isn't C22's fault. By the way, 94% to ultimate, the policy is, like, when you're 80% to your ult, like, you only want to live and generate your ult. So, you know, that should especially motivate us to, it's always better in. Watch all of my other videos, C22. They will actually help you. It's always better in than out, right? So we go in to grab the Mega, and then that will help us either exist in their backlines where we are literally free to play wherever we want as we are the Frog, right? I've been getting in so much trouble in my low GM games that I fell out of. I think I'm Masters 2 now, and it's because I'm just haphazardly always moving forward. I'm just always going in, and oftentimes that gets me in trouble either because my team isn't going in with me or, you know, because I'm going in a way that isn't safe and smart and insane and sound, right? But you know, it should motivate us to go in because we were so close to our ultimate. Make the game easy, right? We just want to play for the map that our character wants to control, the rules by which they play, as well as the rules by which we play in the matchup, right? So we're Frog, which means we don't have to stick to our Kiri Emre core. We can absolutely be a core with our Tracer. We can escort our ball around. You don't want to stack on top of your ball. But Lucio has always been the moderator of, like, the team's formation, right? Bringing people in and out of it and where they need to be. But we're not moderating anything here. We are just shooting a hog. It's like Wu Yang, who has this insane healing uptime, this incredible dueling potential, some really seriously powerful ranged options, and like some really great potential for ranged pressure. But at the end of the day, you are looking to use him Wu Yang's a really interesting character because all he does is heal and damage. You're looking to use him to facilitate the breakpoints, right? So if more pressure equals less damage, right? The idea being that if you're doing more damage to your enemies, which, by the way, you're doing if you're able to do the damage faster, meaning not playing so far away that your orbs take a whole second and a half to reach their targets. That is an incredibly long time between damage instances, by the way, especially on a character who has 20 rounds in his clip. If more pressure equals less damage, right? That is, the more damage we do to them, the less able, the less inclined, the less time they will have or be able to shoot back at us, right? So you're looking to do damage at the same time as you're doing healing, and part of the reason that you don't have to do too much healing, but also that you end up doing a lot of healing, is because you are applying a ton of pressure, and you can do that at any range. Look how comfortable you were fighting the hog at this range. Like couldn't you have done that like at any other point of the map, right? So we have so many options, and I can't really. I cut myself off earlier. This is what I was saying. Like, wasn't C22's fault, wasn't anyone's fault in particular, but like I am going to struggle to say this is how you should be playing this, when the way you should be playing this is literally any other way than you are. We haven't left main, we haven't left low ground, we haven't walked through here, we haven't gone over here, we haven't jumped through this window, we haven't taken this high ground, we didn't move forward to grab Mega, we didn't try to take this high ground, we didn't try to play up here earlier at the start of the round, we didn't try to use this, we didn't try to be over here on this mini, we haven't tried to flip the map, we haven't tried to flank, we haven't tried to off angle. I understand that we're support, but like, you're playing with the ball tracer, that's in the rules of the matchup, or of the composition, right? If you're playing by those 3 rule sets, the character, how do I play my character, the matchup, how do I, who am I playing against, and how do I have to play that, right? Which is, again, not pressing shift back out into the open. It's really curious how, like, again, it's always safer in than out. This is the angle that you're not vulnerable to the Emery damage, but honestly, it's an incredible sleep that your Ana gets anyway, so you get bailed out by, oh my god, we woke him up instantly. And you're also thinking about the rules of your composition, right? Which is, how do I play with my fellow characters? Oh, that's so unfortunate. That's so unfortunate. We're staying out in the open instead of going inside. Hello? It's the Emery ult. That's like the best ult in the game. And if we're like a whole month and a half after he got 3 buffs in a row for no reason, after already having one of the best ultimates in the DPS roster since his release to the game, months ago at this point, a month ago maybe? I don't know. Not that long, but like also not that short. Like, we should absolutely know that we have to go inside, right? I think we are blinding ourselves to the more fluid aspects of Overwatch. Again, the rules that we play by are those 3 core rule sets, and if it is in the favor of damage and healing and statistics and just the 2 things, right, which is do damage and don't die, right, which I think used to be some really sage wisdom. I remember Frito of your Overwatch saying, hey guys, do damage, don't die, right, in Overwatch, and that was really important. But, at the end of the day, oh, wait, hold on. There we go. At the end of the day, you have to die in Overwatch. I've often said that playing support is all about doing everything that you have to do up until the point that you have to die. Because if you aren't dying in Overwatch, then it's probably because you never left the spawn. And if you never left the spawn, then you didn't deserve to win in the first place, especially in low GM. We have to do things. And it's not doing damage and not dying that are the 2 core principles of Overwatch. It is timing and map control. That is what you are looking to use your rule sets to understand. Lobby the rules of Overwatch and these GM lobbies where everyone is playing pretty closely according to the rules, but everyone is also looking for those loopholes, right? Yours include playing with your ball and your tracer cores because you're the one who has the ranged healing output that carry, the ranged, like, out of line of sight healing output, right? It's like throwing up a Zen orb on them, right? Your carry can't do that. Not playing on top of our other support. I didn't mention that, by the way, and I absolutely should have. There's a lot that we weren't able to go into, and I'm always so sorry about that. I just wish I was the time wizard, and I already actually tried a couple of takes at the beginning, for intros, and those weren't going too hot. So I've spent I've already spent a fair deal of time on this, more than I probably should have, and it was an absolute pleasure. A huge shout out goes to C22 for allowing us to remark on the gameplay and share some pretty harsh criticisms. I'm so sorry that I was an absolute dickhead in this VOD review. But I also think that it was so worth it to really break down some of the like really serious, but also like kind of fundamental things that we need to be thinking about differently. And that is like literally just doing everything differently, not just from the way that we did in this match, but I mean like moment to moment, fight to fight, phase to phase, doing different things, because you're always going to jump players by doing things differently. If you do too many things the same way twice, players are going to see it. They're going to pick up on it, especially in low GM. So guys, a huge thank you goes out to you, C22, for providing the gameplay to be showcased, marked for improvement, shared with many others who may benefit from the same insights. And if you guys want to have your VODs reviewed for free on the channel, feel free to email this address. It's important to note that you have to include your replay code. It has to be a good sample of your gameplay. Include your IGN, your current rank, division, role, heroes, any competitive goals, and any pertinent insight on the match itself or questions that you want to have answered. For affordable professional standard coaching, feel free to DM Lord Ethan on Discord for full block one-on-one VOD reviews and discussions, team or group VOD reviews or scrims. I'm pretty comfortable with it all. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. All of the support really means so much, and it's really, really helpful in ways that none of us really can grasp. If you're new to the channel, thanks for sticking around. If you're a regular, I'm very, very grateful to you. If you are a hater, leave a comment. I've gotten a couple of comments from haters. I love you guys. And if you're just along for the ride, like myself, then stick around. It's gonna be an insane journey. There's no stopping us from arriving at our fates. So I'm glad to glad to be around a bunch of others who who have no choice but to move forwards and hopefully upwards as well as we rank up from the insights that we gather with each other. Guys, leave a like, a comment, subscribe to the channel, and enable notifications to see the instant that new videos premiere. And thank you guys all so much for watching. Remember, guys, to be good to each other, be fair to yourselves, and I'll see you guys on the next one.